Hello everyone. Today I'm gonna feature a ship that I found myself playing every now and then. I don't actually consider it that good, but sometimes it is just so amusingly trollish. And that is the Irian, the Pan-Asian Tier 8 cruiser. First though, I want to thank you all of you guys following the Twitch channel. I'm actually going to take it as a goal. I already considered it earlier, but not only have you guys been following the Twitch channel so much, I've been gaining so many subscribers as of late. I think after we reach 100k Twitch followers, the next goal is going to be 100,000 YouTube subscribers. That's of course going to be a much longer goal than the one we have set for the Twitch channel now, but that's going to be the future goal. So you don't have to worry about me suddenly slacking off. No, the goal is absolutely to go big here. But thank you very much for the support. I appreciate it a lot. Moving on, the Irian. Kind of like a Kutuzov, except no smoke. And this of course means you have to play it quite differently. A bit like the Champaev, but of course you lack some key tools. For example, you have no radar. So you also don't have the 26mm plating, but other than that you are very much a Kutuzov type, meaning you are quite squishy. However, the firing range is excellent at 17.5, and of course the shell velocity and the firing arcs are quite good, so the Irian works well as a long-range type of spammer. 10.8 concealment means you're also quite sneaky. You can't use it like the Chapaev to ambush DDs and such with radar, but with the addition of Hydro you can still be quite a threat. I'm trying to blind fire this means capping, because as always people need to remember that a smoke is only a vision obstacle. It doesn't protect you from incoming shells. However, he's managed to park so deep behind rocks that I actually can't find the angle, even if I'm trying desperately to get the reset here. The Irian though, very squishy. Big citadel, quite squishy, 25mm plating. You will get blapped if you try to brawl battleships, or if you just try to tank them. In general, you want to focus on avoidance. And because you have a fairly big turning circle, well, a fairly large citadel more importantly, you want to be careful when you take your turns. The build wise, because the guns are 100 and what, 152, 155, I think they're 152 actually because they're Soviet, we obviously run IFHE. And with IFHE you can get 32mm pen, which means you can farm the majority of the targets that you face. Also, Concealment Expert to reach the additional concealment. Other builds than that, other specs than that is AR. I actually think I run Last Stand on it, and that's mostly because unlike the Kutuzov that smokes up, you basically open water gunboat all the time in the Irian, and because you spend so much of your time doing exactly what I'm doing here, kiting away, you end up losing your rudder a fair bit. So that's the reason I have spec Last Stand. Is it necessary? No, you can probably do without it, but I have it as an extra comfort. I also have Demo Expert and Superintendent. Of those, I think Demo Expert is more important because you spend more time gunboating than anything else, and Superintendent is just for those long games where you get a lot of opportunities to utilize your torps. The torps are of course something I didn't mention, and that's that this thing actually has basically Yu-Yang torpedoes. That is 13.5 km torpedoes that hit like a truck. You can launch 5 per side, and more importantly you actually have a torpedo reload booster, which is what makes the Irian unique. I wouldn't say the ship is that good. In fact, when it first came out I kind of said, yeah, this is kind of like a pass. Especially if you have the Kutuzov, the ship isn't really going to offer that much else. It is kind of amusing though, if you manage to maneuver into a position where you can utilize its gimmick. The reason I also decided to make this commentary is one of the major mistakes people make when playing the Irian. It's the same mistake people make when playing the Atago, or the Mogami, or the Ibuki, or even a tier 10, the Za. And that is, they try to use the torps too much. People need to understand that torps on ships like this are an additional feature. They are a bonus. If you happen to find an opportunity to use them, but don't try to make them into a main armament, something you try to use first before you focus on your guns. So if you want to use the guns or the torpedoes on the Irian, which involves giving a lot of broadside, wait for the perfect opportunity. More than importantly, if the enemy has any clue of what ship they're facing, they will be popping hydros, they will be disengaging, they will be doing all sorts of shenanigans to avoid those incoming torps. So you really want to line them up perfectly. In this case, I'm not really finding any good opportunities for the torpedoes. I could maybe spam some torps in there, but in general, no real juicy opportunities have presented themselves, so I'm not gonna push in like an idiot and try to find them. That's something you see so often, Irians overextending, trying to push up, trying to make those torpedoes work. Why? Your guns are great. With IFHE, you're basically a Kutuzov. You're a Kutuzov with great firing starting chance, you can burn to death pretty much all the targets you face. And with 17.5 km range, you got plenty of utility. Play safe. That's really the point and thing to focus on with the Irian is play safe. Don't try to force the torpedoes. Opportunities to use the torpedoes will present themselves eventually, although you can maneuver into intelligent positions. In this case, I utilize the torpedoes not as a mechanical advantage, but as a tactical advantage. I saw that the majority of the enemy team was pushing down this right flank, even though I spawned on the left flank, so I have been slowly moving across the map all the way to the right to get into a position where I can eventually use the torpedoes. Now, a bit annoying that the carrier shows up, because I kind of wanted to disengage here. I waited until the Roma shot, because Roma is the one ship that can delete me, and once the Roma had shot, this is where I take my opportunity to disengage. I don't want to risk staying in this crossfire. I was a bit overextended, and you need to realize when you're overextended in a squishy cruiser like this, and quickly disengage. Angle away, get away as fast as you can, and that's exactly what we're doing here. We're focusing mostly on the hipper. Luckily it's only a hipper, so it's not that big of a threat as other cruisers, and with some good angling we can basically mitigate all of his damage, while at the same time our DPM of course will shred him. I will return a bit here, I'm gonna eat some extra AP damage, but overall the important thing was that we managed to disengage from a crossfire, and we're just focusing on spamming. There was one opportunity to drop torps on the Roma pushing in, but I didn't feel it was worth dropping the reload booster yet, because it was quite obvious he wasn't really playing aggressive. They're all focused on me, 3 people are targeting me. It's unlikely to get any good torpedo hits from a position like this, and if I wanted to use my torps now, well, I'd be giving broadside to basically 4 ships that are sailing behind me, 3 of them already targeting me. So we use the main bread and butter of the Irian, which is the guns. And you see we're shredding this hipper quite well. In fact, we've farmed about 80k damage. And most importantly, we managed to disengage, and we are slowly getting into a position where these torpedoes will actually become useful. My Akatsuki looks like he's overextending. From a team perspective, this is a bad thing. But from my perspective, this might actually allow me to utilize the gimmick, the strength, the ace in the sleeve that the Irian has, so to say. Because normally when they kill the DD, especially since it was the only DD on our team, battleship players especially tend to gain a lot of confidence. DD is down, threat is gone, it's go time. And this is when I realize, first of all, these guys will want to push in. Second of all, they will eventually be wanting to move towards the other side of the map where my entire team is. So this is where we start. You can only launch 5 per side. So we launch left, then we swing around. It's a slow process, and this is why you don't want to be doing this when someone is shooting at you. We drop the right side, then we pop the reload booster. We're gonna drop another set on the right side. The reload booster cooldown is gigantic, so honestly I kind of question running Superintendent. It might be that this is just some other captain that I slapped straight on it. I think maybe turret traverse and maybe preventive maintenance, or turret traverse and expert loader might be better. Ultimately though, expert loader isn't that useful on a ship with a reload this fast. I turn away. I don't want them to spot me. I want them to forget I even existed. Forget the Irian was here, make them think the Irian has ran all the way away where the carriers usually go, and completely abandoned this flank. That's what I want them to think. I want them to think they are pushing into safety. They're finally getting through this flank, and they're finally about to get some damage done. Because we got a whole lot of torpedo soup in the water, boys. The ambush is culminating perfectly. The worst part about these torps is of course that they are deep water torpedoes, which means they basically get no warning time at all. These things pop up out of nowhere. There's no reaction time, there's no nothing. They pop up at less than 1 kilometer from the target. We land torpedoes on every single one of them. In fact, the Roma, I think, damage con the first set. And he ate follow-up floodings. I got a fire on him right after because, as I mentioned, it's an excellent fire starter. So that guy, he's double flooding and burning. The Ismail, well, he's only eaten one, but it is a Soviet BB, so this is probably gonna take some while. But I already abandoned the Roma. I know he's dead. There's nothing he can do about it. And just like that, we went from what, less than 100k to almost 180k, and this entire flank they've been working up for, this entire flank they've been trying to make happen, well, we just completely butchered their plan. Does this happen that often in Irian? No, I gotta withstand. It's not that common, but when you do pull it off, it does, without a doubt, always bring a smile to my face. It does make you grin, because of course Irian's gimmick is nowhere near as useful as Kutuzov's. Like, Kutuzov's smoke is so incredibly useful. You smoke up and you farm, but Kutuzov isn't for sale anymore, and it's unlikely to ever return, except, well, in whatever loot crates Wargaming think they can make some money on. But making Irian's gimmick really work can be a bit of a challenge, because it usually involves risk to get all the torpedoes off. But when you get these perfect spreads off and you absolutely butcher a flank, it is without a doubt absolutely hilarious. And I think that's why I occasionally play it. Because when you do pull it off, well, it's satisfying. Oh, trying to burn down an Ismail, Jesus. Even with IFHE, this is like a tier 6 battleship, and even with IFHE on this cruiser, I'm just shattering half my shells. And of course you can't make any fire stick on it either because of that Soviet damage con. And he has no real superstructure to focus either, so it's a pain to get any damage in on him. But we do finally burn him to death. And the game ends. Not that special of a game, but I just wanted to highlight some of the common mistakes, which is people are too focused on the torpedoes. Think of the torpedoes as a tactical advantage. Not something to be used in the heat of the battle, but something to be pre-planned and used mostly from stealth. Don't try to torpedo when you're spotted. It almost never works out. It's a stealth tool, and you can use it to build up for an ambush like I did there. But unless you're YOLOing someone, the torpedoes are more likely to be a liability than an advantage. Much like with ships like Atago, Ibuki and this. Whenever someone gives me broadside in those ships, I know they're torping. It's so obvious, and most of the time I also punish them with citadels. Don't be that guy. Team score wise, not too special of a game, 2.2k, very short game in fact. If we look at the detailed report, this was only a 12.5 minute game. But torpedoes, almost 60k, another 20k flooding, and of course the fires I got on top when their damage con was on cooldown. This was an example of why even a ship that isn't necessarily that good, the Irian, I'm not saying it's a bad ship. The Irian isn't a bad ship. Any ship based on the Kutuzov hull isn't going to be bad, like the Chapayev. But, well, okay, Chapayev isn't exactly the same thing, and don't nitpick, guys, but it doesn't mean that it can't be fun. And some of these ships that, even though they aren't that good, for example the Atlanta isn't really a good ship, doesn't mean you still can't have a lot of fun. And this was an example of a ambush pulled off perfectly, which made this game very enjoyable indeed. I hope you guys enjoyed this slightly shorter vid. Thank you for your support. I will talk to you guys later.